Hello everyone, I have broken my car again, so you get another exciting garage video, although today I am not in a garage. See what's up with it. So Donington was the last race, went well. Race was good, no grip whatsoever. I'll show you the state of my tyres shortly. Racing driver excuses, of course. But then in the assembly area after the race, I noticed that there was just pools of oil at the back of the car, and it looks like the diff has blown a seal. So I couldn't enter the second race because I didn't have any parts to do that sort of job. So today I'm going to be doing that and some other things. So the car maybe has been neglected a little bit. I've got a new battery for it because the current battery now is about 5-6 years old and it does not like charging. And I have noticed in some of the videos my alternator's massively overcharging, and I'm hoping that is just to compensate for it. So new battery's just down there, so I'll swap that, which is an easy job. So I'm gonna get it, I'm here at basically my dad's because I can get it up on the ramps, which is nice, instead of me crawling underneath. It needs a good wash. You can see here, like I have no tyre tread left. These are AO 452s, and there's nothing on them. You see how blue they are as well. What I am going to do though is the AO52s, they recommend quite a lot of camber. Now the car has got a decent amount of camber, but not really on the front, and you can see on the front it's just absolutely rinsing the outside edge of the tyre. So I'm actually going to add more camber because fortunately on the Vixen the standard suspension setup gives you quite a lot of adjustment, so that's cool. So first things first, I'm just going to get it off the trailer because it's been sat here like some sort of naughty forgotten boy for the last 2 weeks, and give it a wash off. I'll get it on the ramps and we will start with the diff first. So I've just rolled it off the trailer, as you can see, loads of oil, and also oil up there, which I will talk about in a second. But it's all on the left hand side, and you can see how it's been washing over, and it's actually been going on my wheel around the corner. So me thinking tyres are absolutely done in, they are, but they were made even worse by me actually driving on my own oil, so that's great. The front oil leak, as you can see by that lovely stain, I think I've got an oil leak in between. It's a dry sump, so the oil pump mates to the block, and I think it's leaking out of there. So I've got a new Kinetic gasket for that, which I'll stick on the car, because that should solve that issue. I've looked under the car as well. I mean, you won't be able to see really, I don't think, in this sort of, go under there. I don't know if you'll be able to see or not, probably not. But basically the left hand side of the car underneath is absolutely covered in oil. The right hand side is actually dry, so it definitely looks like left hand seal has gone. So that's cool. I'll get it up on the ramps and we'll start sorting that out. Okay, so here is the workshop, and the car is up on the ramps already. Never mind about that. So I've given it a quick wash, and to be fair, for a car that is hammered around a track, it's actually not looking too bad at all. So here is the culprit, the diff here. Now I've got an alloy casing on the back so it holds more oil, and more importantly it's got a drain plug on the bottom so I can drain the oil off. So I'm going to drain the oil off, and hopefully there's going to be oil coming out of it, so it means it hasn't run dry. And then I will tackle here. Need to take the drive shaft off and pop that out, and there's a seal inside there which I think is what's gone. I think it's blowing because the oil's getting that hot. The breather system on those Spitfire diffs is basically a hole with a pin in it. It's naff. So I think I'm getting the diff that hot that quickly. It's just, the oil's blowing out of wherever it can. So I think I'll probably vent it somehow. I haven't figured out how yet. So I'll drain the oil off and see where we go. That's all that was left in there. It's not very good, is it? Doesn't seem to be. I'll have a look in the oil. There doesn't seem to be a lot of metal in there. But it's obviously not great, is it? But I'm just gonna have to run it for Donington Park. I can't change it. I've got the money. So I'll just change this seal and see where we go from there. So I've just jacked the car up, just on here. Takes the weight off the back essentially, so I can easily spin the wheels to just spin it around and undo these bolts just up here. So undo them, and then I've got access to there, because these drive shafts, there's movement in them, so I don't have to take the wheel off. That will just pull away and move out the way, and I can get to the actual seal on there without having to take any of the suspension off. So that's good. So I've managed to take it out. So it's just, that's your drive shaft end. These are just little bolts that bolt it to the actual thing. So that's your inner drive shaft basically. Looking at this, the Timken bearings, now I was running low on oil obviously, so I was a little concerned, but there's absolutely no movement in those bearings, and so they look all right, which is good. But then if you have a look, there's an oil seal then here, and you can see there's a ridiculous amount of movement in there. So that has just not been sealing at all essentially. So that is definitely where all the oil's been pouring out of, because it just goes straight through your bearing, and if that's not sealed in between there, it just comes straight out in between there. So it's been absolutely pouring out. So I'll replace the seal. So there's a little circlip here, so you sort of undo that circlip, your bearing will then remove, and that gives you access to the rubber behind it. And I've got a new one of those, so I'll get to it and pop that on. So I've got the circlip off. That's just they sort of prise off actually quite easily. Those, it's a little bit bent, I might just have to bend it back in place again. And then the bearing is just onto this shaft now, because this is basically freshly rebuilt not long ago. It's not going to be overly tight. You'll find on an old car, if you're trying to do it, it's impossible. But basically just clamping it in the vise, not a massive hammer, just tapping away at the top just to start shock moving it, and then basically when you're done, that's your bearing. So that comes out, bearing's lovely. So I'll put that to one side. Then you've got the two parts, and come over where it's a bit brighter. You'll see on here, that is your oil seal, and you can see it's actually split. See that? So split open, That's bad, isn't it? So I'm not quite sure why it's split like that, but there's your oil leak anyway. So, hurrah. So stick a new seal in that. Basically tap the bearing back into position. You'll see here, you actually just get it down on that side there, and it presses down. So, yeah, stick it back on, and we'll be good to go. Okay, new seals on. So this is assembled again. So that now just goes back into the diff. You'll notice one side sits slightly curved, that mounting plate, square on all edges and then curved. That curve needs to go to the back of the car, because essentially your drive shaft bolts here, they will only come out on there because they'll hit the other side. So it's important to have that near the back. On the alloy casings, they're actually a bit thicker, so they don't come out very easily anyway. So I tend to put the bolts in now before I stick the shaft back in, because that's just a bit easier later on. So I'll pop that back in now, tighten it all up, and that is the diff resealed. So there are interference fit on this. The bearing literally just slides in. I've put gasket sealant just on the outside, red stuff, 5 temps, all I had. Probably not wise for the future, because it's going to be a pain in the ass to get it back out, but there you go. And then all you got to do, in the words of, can't remember his name now, on Happy Gilmore, just tap it in.
All you gotta do is just tap it in. Just tap it in now.
Done. So that's all back together. So I don't hit the drive shaft in too hard. I let the little bolts on that flange do the rest of the pulling in, because otherwise the drive side, I think, goes too far and it rubs against the actual bushing. That might be what's happened, and it's overheated, that's why it's split. But everything's back together now anyway. So I'll put it back on its wheels on the back, and then it's the front now. And what I've got here, that is my dry sump connection, and so this is very oily, and it seems to be just tracking in from above near one of the bolts. And so I think what's happening, the gasket behind there has gone, and it's actually just started leaking oil, and it's running down and then onto the engine, and then running back onto the gearbox, finding chassis rails and things like that. I mean, I'm not losing too much oil, but obviously it's something that you want to sort, especially it being a part of the oiling system. So the next job will be to take off all the connections to it, and hopefully I've got enough room to just sort of withdraw that. It's going to be tight though, so I hope it comes out. Otherwise it's a mammoth job pushing the engine up. So I'll start doing that. So I've undone the bottom connections. They're just sort of draining off any sort of excess into the oil container. So they're just like an air equip style connection on there, like a hydraulic fitting. So that's the 2 done underneath. Need to sort of undo suction side from the sump, and then it's the 2 just on top. So I've disconnected all the oil connections. It's drained out into here, and as predicted, life is never too easy, is it? So that is the sump pump, and as you can see, that is not going to withdraw out of the block without taking the engine out, which is great, isn't it? I'm not taking the engine out. So the gaskets, what you'll find, don't know if you can see there, you can see the different ports. Now on the dry sump pump version, it only uses one up near the top, which you're probably not going to be able to see that well. It's one connection into the block, because the rest is actually managed externally through the different outlets instead of it running internally. It definitely looks like it's been leaking because the whole gasket is wet, and against the block is wet. So the idea is, this gasket, basically at the bottom, it's just mating against the surface. The high pressure side is actually near the top of the gasket. So my cheat, I suppose, is I'm actually in the new gasket going to make a very neat cut in the bottom of the gasket, and then just add a little bit of silicone sealant around that area, but it's the opposite side to where the actual high pressure oil side is. So it should still connect, it should still seal, and that cut at the bottom, all the silicone's doing at the bottom is essentially stopping oil coming out from this connection. But that connection isn't under any pressure, it's just going into the block to run off the gearing. So it should be okay. I mean, we'll find out, because that's what I'm going to do. So I'll get the old gasket off, clean up the area a bit, it's a bit oily, clean up the surface face because I can get in there to do that, and stick a new gasket on. I'm using a Cometic one. Cometic are generally very good gaskets for all sorts of different things. Ordinarily don't need sealant. I am just going to put a little bit though where I'm making that cut to seal that up. Other than that, fingers crossed, we should be all right with that. So the connections are on. So that's the oil pump sorted. Hopefully it doesn't leak with that cut in the gasket. I said I've put gasket paste on, but you never really know. I'll fire it up. One thing I did notice though, underneath the live feed to the solenoid on the starter motor, basically the cable had nearly broken off. There's only a thin cable that comes on there, so I'm just going to replace that with a thicker cable. Must be because it's underneath, it's quite exposed there, it's hot near the sump. So I'll put a bigger cable onto the solenoid. Mission that was. Here I am editing. I'm going to call it quits at that for this episode, because it's onto the brakes next, and I think that is going to be a whole episode on its own. So that will follow very shortly after this one. So watch out for it.